One. Boom. Yo. We back at another one. Blessed to be here. Blessed to have this platform. It's another day at the relationship game. We got some special guests in the building. One special guest in particular. But we gonna get this thing started just so we ain't taking up all your time with the intro. So let me pass it to my man Detroit. This is Charles Handy in the building. We got Detroit in the building. What's the word?
Yo. I'm not sure if you can hear me. I'm still working on some audio, but good to be back in the building. I would do my round of applause, but you can't hear it yet. So, but it's nice to be able
Yeah.
to contact with all my folks, and we have somebody back that I dearly love and miss in the Aquila Trinae. How are you, madam?
Hey,
Hey, yeah, I missed you last week.
couple times. Because even when she was in the studio before this whole
Oh, that's right. I
Yeah.
was in the flesh,
Why
before the pandemic.
you didn't? Nobody told me.
Well, it was supposed to be a surprise, and you
Yeah,
surprised me by not being there.
yeah.
So, But
My
here
bad.
we are on this wonderful Sunday. Happy Easter, happy resurrection to everyone out there who's celebrating that. And we also have a guest, and I get the pleasure of introducing our special guest for today, Omatunde Tunde Swole
Tunde.
West is the brains behind helping us grow sexually, HUGS. Tunde is a public health practitioner born and raised in Oakland, California, but has spent the majority of her career in, East Oakland?
Yeah.
I was about to just say it anyway because I'm from East Oakland, but I was like, I don't know. It might be West. It might be North. Who knows? Okay, East Oakland in the building. But she spent the majority of her career on the East Coast in the beautiful Washington, D.C. Tunde has always been the go-to girl for answers to sexuality questions and was coined the sexpert among her family and friends at an early age. Tunde has over 15 years of experience as a content area specialist, clinical health center director, classroom teacher, program, and professional development. Tunde is passionate about empowering all people from various backgrounds about the wonderful world of sexual health. Tunde is the lead author of the Washington, D.C.'s 2015 Youth Risk Behavior Survey Report, which highlighted key health-related behavior data of youth and young adults in D.C. Tunde has a bachelor's in biology from Howard University and a master's of public health from Milken Institute School of Public Health at George Washington University and holds various health certifications. Tunde is enthusiastic and interested in the development and scale of innovative sexual health practices and programs. She enjoys educating others about the importance of sexuality and sex education in a way that is relatable to all. We about to learn about some sex stuff today.
Yeah,
Tunde is happily married to her loving partner, who she has been with for over a decade, and they have two amazing, beautiful boys. Just in case you wanted to know if she was certified and official, Tunde has been featured on WUSA 9, Let's Talk Live, News Channel 8, Prince George's County CTV, Bedroom Business by the Beacon blog, WHUR Frank Ski Show 96.3. Basically, she's been around. She knows what she's talking about, and she's here today on the relationship game to give us some info and school us a little bit in the sexuality world. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And hugs, I didn't know you were from Oakland too. Okay.
Yes, I am from East Oakland,
biz going on.
California. Sorry, Detroit.
Yeah, he's
I got love for Detroit too, though. I got some folks from Detroit.
I'm actually from LA, but it's just weird.
Yeah,
Right.
From Cali. Okay, the Cali side.
I mean, I didn't get to do the Oakland thing, but whatever.
Right.
Oakland, California, as I call it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Look.
So yeah, what's good? So I guess we have.
I'll just jump into it. Well, I did want to bring this up just before we got into like all the meat of the conversation. but I don't know if you guys got the post. And Charles, I figured maybe you watched it or got the post because you're, Revolt alumni.
Uh,
But did he state of emergency? Did anybody have
oh
an
yeah,
opportunity to check that out? The
yeah.
conversation. I only got to see half of it, but from the parts that I watched, it
He's
was
actually throwing a
very informative.
he's doing a
Go ahead.
he's doing a dance party.
Is that today?
Yeah, it's today at 3 actually. So it's actually in like an hour or something. We're recording this for anybody. We're recording this at 1 like 1:30, 2 almost 2. But our Pacific Standard Time, but then this is going to air on the Good News Network later. But all that to say is that yeah, he's throwing a dance party. I did see the State of the Union and it was definitely very eye-opening. I didn't watch the whole entire thing because then I started having to get back to work. But just to say, like, this is a crazy time. A part of the thing that's making this kind of crazier is because it's how it's affecting Black people specifically. And then realizing that, they're like Black Lives Matter, Black Jobs Matter, and the thing that's that they was pushing that message. I'm like, man, what's really insane about this whole thing, and what I would say too, in addition to all that, is Black technology matters. You know what I'm saying? And so something I'm really present to is like we got things like Afro Tech, and that's in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley. Is this? So I was talking to my wife last night. Is that here goes the thing that the Black Panther Party, part of their principles back in the 1960s or 50s, at the earliest stages when they were making their founding like principles, they were like they said that you must be in tune with technology because that's gonna lead the revolution, right? Like that's technology. They were very, even though they're in Bay Area is like a huge Silicon Valley that's always been tech. So they were I think they were like trying to send out mass emails, messengers through their communications through like some, before it was like email, it was like the very like early stages of whatever mass communications that there were, but they knew that's how one way they could get out their message. And so something that we have to be present to is that this, in this time that we're living in, is like, especially with social distancing, we have to have technology, we have to be in tune with how to use it and how to get messages out and how to be in tune enough to receive it. So we got to have people that can put it out there and still get messages out. And we also have to be in tune enough and savvy enough and technology based enough to get the messages that are being sent out. So if you got an old flip phone, you know what I'm saying, Detroit, if you got a flip phone, you know what I'm saying, it's time to upgrade because you're gonna miss out, and they're gonna be saying all the Black people that need $20 million meet us at the corner of Slauson and Swap Me. I don't know. And then you like, damn, I could have got the 20, whatever. I could have got my free thing, but I didn't get it because I had a flip phone. Whatever. You have to get the damn messages. So that's the big thing. And then, because last night I had a party, a Zoom party. I'm gonna throw another one. It was actually kind of tight, and I was like, you know what? There was a lot of people that couldn't come to the Zoom party because because I did some on the settings, and I was like, you have to log into Zoom to actually get into the party or whatever. But all that to say is a lot of people didn't know how to download. You got to download the Zoom app. You have to log in and all this stuff. And it was like 3 steps, but those steps just caused a lot of people to kind of not be able to do it. And
well, it's teaching a lot of people how
yeah,
to gain access, because I know just even Zooming with my family and the majority of them are older. So, it's like, oh, well, what is that? Well, I'm trying to log on. Well, how do you do it? And then my dad and my mom is asking me, well, how do you show me how to put the virtual background? And, so, I mean, by the time all of this is over, I think a lot of the older folk that were kind of anti are going to be a little bit more on board.
Because you have to, it's like a survival thing.
Right. Just because this is the transition to like, so there were a time, right, when we didn't have email, like you said, in computers, and then we had to like adjust to it. And some were able to get by. But if you think about it, like I do most of my banking through my mobile app or different apps and things of that nature. If I need to get, money to somebody real quick, I do Cash App, I do all those things. Whereas some people who are like, no, I didn't want to do that. Now you can't really just get up and go to the bank anytime you want
And it
to and
ain't
go pay
safe.
those bills. Right, exactly. So now it's like, oh, now let me download this app so I can pay my bills online, so I don't have to actually physically go to these places. And now, the access is granted, where it's like, okay, now I see the need for it. It wasn't a need for it when I could just get in my car and write the check and, go to the mailbox and do all that stuff. But now that times have kind of shifted and changed, now there's a need for all of that technology. So I think a lot of it is just going to change in general, and just us as a community, as Diddy is mobilizing people, we have to have, the main thing that he was saying is we have to have our own source of information. We can't go to CNN, we can't go to
Yeah.
MSNBC, we can't go to those places because they're sugarcoating it and they're talking about the majority. We're not the majority. So we have to have a place where we can go and get what he said, the real deal, like scaled back truth, raw, information that's not sugarcoated with what they're trying to tell everyone else, because our reality is different than everybody else. We're getting hit the hardest with this thing. And it's not just the first time that we know that we're, found at the bottom and the majority of these things, but now it's just kind of like, okay, so let's talk to the people who are experts in the field of the specific areas and let's get the truth, so that now everybody can say that I understand and I know, and like, oh, nobody told me or I didn't know. Like, no, you heard it. You have access now to the truth. It's up to you to listen to it, to take heed, and then do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is, I notice a lot of people, just I'll say this, what I did notice is that essential workers, a lot of us, which we all know, some Black people that are part of these essential workers are quote unquote essential workers, where they still, because that's they saying the Black jobs matter, because we're sitting here having to still work. So we're the trash, we're the trash man. We're the whatever those jobs are that are still, so that's
A lot
exposing
of city workers,
city work,
transportation
yeah,
drivers.
transportation, things like that. Black people, a lot of us, it's a lot of us that are doing those type of jobs. So that means that because of that, we're either risking ourselves, our lives, or we're risking our families, because we're out in the elements and then come back to your family every day, so that is the thing that I did pick up from what they're saying, and I don't know how to get around that to make it
Well,
better.
I mean, just really just demanding what is your legal right. Because I've talked to a couple people. I know some people who work for the post office. I know some people who work just in jobs where it's like more labor, like auto or those type of industries. And if you're not saying to your boss, like, I need the proper equipment in order to go out, or I'm not going to come to work. And if you don't provide me with the things that I need in order to be safe, I'm going to notate these things and I will be following up in another way. Like, because they can't just fire you, you know what I mean? Like, they can lay off workers because of like not having um, the money to pay the labor force. But as far as you wanting to make sure that you're safe and you're taken care of, the job, they're required to make sure that you're protected. And if you don't speak that language to them and you just go ahead and go to work and be like, okay, and just whatever, then they won't ensure that those things are happening. But I can guarantee you, people of another color will go to work and they'll say, no, I'm not coming to work unless you provide X, Y, and Z. And then the jobs are forced to provide X, Y, and Z, because they know that they don't want any lawsuits coming later on, because that's what's going to end up happening. When this is all said and done, it's going to be a bunch of lawsuits everywhere. And so if we're not documenting and keeping track, and you know what I mean, they didn't provide face masks and gloves
Yeah, that's
until
the new
April
law.
3rd, but we were, in shelter in place March 13th. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you're not documenting these things, then you won't be able to like kind of make the case. But the laws are changing to
But
make sure that people are protected. But if we don't know the laws and we don't know what our rights are, then we're gonna get looked over, passed over, and all that stuff. So
yeah, recently they changed that to that law. I guess the face mask law. for all essential workers that the companies have to pay for. I think in Los Angeles at least, but they said everybody that essential workers have to either be provided masks and gloves, or they have to reimburse the workers. So yeah, that's. I mean, I don't know. I've been just like going up and down and like some wave of like, well, this probably like emotions, like this, and we're not gonna probably be doing this anymore. I just think about like all the different events and things that we've done over the years, and just naturally, like just human nature, we're just like around each other, close to each other. We embrace each other. It's just, I just think about all the times that we've just been like at a function or at a house party or at a concert or just stuff like, is that going to come back to normal, or is like, how is that going to, are we going to be able to get to a place where those things still exist, or those things are just gone forever or whatever? So
I
like,
don't think they will, but I think that, like you said, with like just kind of getting used to Zoom and getting you used to technology, that will be a new form for people to use and access. And what it did is just extend versus limit. I mean, we're limited now just because we can't get together and touch one another. But once this is done, I think that the use of technology will be more of something that is widespread, used widespread, even in education and all that, more often. But the only other thing I wanted to say about the face mask is that I've also been hearing, like, as Black people, right, that some people have had issues with wearing face masks in public because, again, when we as Black people cover our faces, right, it's, that makes us even more threatening. So it's like you go out in public, you got your face mask, and not the
I mean, well, if your face mask is a bandana, I mean,
but listen, it doesn't matter, because what did they say? They said any type of cloth fabric that's breathable that you can tie around your face. It doesn't matter if it's a bandana or not. If you took a regular scarf and tied it around your face, Detroit, and went out in public into the store, they're gonna be looking at you crazy.
Yeah.
No. True story.
I'm looking at fools crazy too.
No. True story. I heard it on live, or I read it somewhere, but and it happened to me. I went to the bank because I do deliver food. I went to the bank and I'm sitting down asking, because I had fraud happen in my account. So when the money deposits into my account, I have to go in physically and have them switch it over. Guy walks in, all black, bandana, gloves on, and it struck me weird for a minute, like. And then he sat down. Yeah, then he sat down right next to me, and I can't stop looking at him like.
All right, it's like it's about to go down.
Like, okay, I gotta get up and go. You know what I'm saying? It was just weird, but
Yeah, I just went to the ATM when I went to the bank, because I was like, but I
couldn't go to the ATM.
Yeah, but I did see people coming in the bank, the actual bank. I'm like, are people going to take off their mask and gloves when they go into the bank?
No, you're going to keep it on and still people in there.
It was like,
nah. But some of the people in the bank are dressed up like that too. And this was in Santa Monica.
Yeah. So this is, I don't know how the bank experience is. I mean, look, God forbid, but people, I'm sure desperate times is already hitting a few people's minds. So, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Speaking of desperate times, though.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce your name again?
You can say Tunde.
I can say who?
Tunde.
Tunde?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get that the rest of it one day. But for today, Tunde. For those of us that are in peril, sexual peril, and we're stuck in home, can't get to our mates, is there such thing as sexual sanity, and how do we go about it?
Ooh. That's a good transition right there. I would have gave you a round of applause for that, but I can't.
Yeah, put a clap on your screen.
I'm still trying to figure out how to get y'all to listen to the audio, but I'm also streaming live, so going back and forth on Facebook and trying to do it is weird. I'll figure it out later.
No, well, thank you for that question, and thank y'all. This is really interesting convo. I mean, it's good to, be in engaging minds and talking with y'all. So I definitely have to check out that Diddy piece because someone else had also
I
asked
haven't
about.
seen it either, so I want to see it
It's
too.
on YouTube.
Okay, so I'm gonna definitely check that out. But yeah, the technology piece is huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't even say how important technology is during a time like this, especially in the Black community, especially amongst our seasoned individuals, because like you said, they like even trying to now pay their bills online. That's a big thing, and I even like with my husband's parents, they're military and they're so freaked out. They're like, oh, I gotta go.
Because they don't trust that stuff.
No, look, and they're
Mm-mm.
like, we are not. I don't know. I'm like, look, y'all gotta download these apps. And like one, I think I want to say it's my husband's dad who just transitioned to a smartphone. And it's not even like an iPhone. Like it's like just add minutes to it, and
Right.
Oh, heck
and
no.
I'm like, we gotta upgrade, But they're like, no, this is okay as long as we get our calls. I'm like,
Why
so
not?
Right.
I'm like, but yeah, so I definitely wholeheartedly agree. And even, there are folks who are I was on a briefing the other day with DC Council, and we're talking about the state of COVID. And, you have folks who are, in high positions, judges, attorneys, who are there, I mean, literally are trying to understand Zoom. Because they thought they weren't live, and they were like, okay, we're gonna go live. And I'm like, oh, y'all are already live right now. So,
Right.
but folks, I say that to say folks are learning. There's,
Yeah,
we're
a
all learning.
learning curve, definitely.
Yeah, so it's either
And some of them, yeah, you kind of just getting thrown into it.
yeah, you have to. I mean, with Microsoft Teams and Zoom, I mean, I feel like I am like an expert myself in these, but it's on the positive note, it's good to understand, these different components. But to my colleagues' question, yes, sexual sanity is something that I've been getting hit up a lot with. I get text messages, I get DMs. Folks are like, look, I just want to go see my boo, but they live in a different place, different apartment or different city. I'm like, look, all I tell people, because I know folks at the end of the day, people have temptations, they have wants, they have desires. We are human. We are not a species that, are supposed to be isolated. So, this whole social distancing and isolation, it's hard, right? And even someone for myself, I'm super extroverted. Like I like to be out and be around people. So for me to have to
You want to go to the Go-Go's?
like, I want to go out. I want to, move around, but it's hard. But like I tell folks all the time, the number one thing, if you do go, you feel like you have to go and fulfill whatever need, just be safe. Be safe, be safe, be safe. And if you live separately from your partner, have an understanding that, look, it's only you and I right now, because you don't know who is asymptomatic or not. It really is a scary thing. So I've been telling folks, like, look, if you have to, please just practice safety. One of the things I will say about
Like
COVID,
condoms, or what do you
well,
mean?
definitely condoms.
I
And I
mean
know
that one's anyway.
But that don't have nothing to do with the COVID.
well, it doesn't, but just protecting yourself anyway. It doesn't, because one of the things, COVID hasn't been found. This particular strand has not been, or any other, I will say, novel strand of corona has not been found in ejaculation or vaginal fluids. So I will say that. But I did get a question about, okay, well, is it safe if I want to, for lack of safer terms, I'll use kind of the street terminology, toss my partner salad, rimming, so
Mhm.
I say you want to be careful with that, because
It is in feces, right?
it is in feces, right? So please practice safety.
No kind of butt playing, basically, huh?
Well, and the thing about it, if you do practice safety, condoms, making sure that I would really stay away from giving any type of mouth to anus play at this time, because you don't know. Even a person who is asymptomatic, you wouldn't know if they had COVID or not. So just really steering away from that, and then also kissing too, because kissing is like
You can't kiss?
you can transmit it through the droplets in the saliva. So being cautious with that as well. So
it's a lot, yeah. So,
it's a lot.
so I mean, but what I mean, yeah, I don't know. So I mean, that's so you saying you're saying that if this is in the case of a person that just has to go out and like get it in or whatever, basically sexually with a partner,
with their partner.
and you're saying that they so what kind of stuff could they do? I mean, because that's I seem like kissing is a big thing, right?
Look, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. Like I did tell a client this the other day, because she was like, "Look, I just want to go out because she's been online dating and that's kind of been her thing." I said, "Your safest thing right now is to pause from that and practice self-love. So masturbate, because masturbate is one of the safe because
and Pornhub is free. I mean, it's always free, but the premium.
The premium is actually free, right? So
Akila told me that.
What's on the
I told you no such thing.
Yes,
Wait a minute. I have a question though about, you said when you mentioned your client who's doing online dating. So were they asking about like going out with different people online, or just like it's one person that they've been talking to online and wanting to just meet up?
So one person they've been.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Cause she does. What do you recommend for somebody that's probably is at this point maybe even tired of masturbating, and they just say, all right, I'm gonna go out. Here's the parameters that I'm gonna set, and then I'm gonna do what I gotta do. So what could they do? What should they do? What kind of foreplay? Then what kind of intercourse? You know what I'm saying?
So I'll give you two things, right? So number one, the first thing before you even go out, your door, because I really am trying to have people try, to practice social distancing. I get it. It's rough. Trust me. But in order for us, like I tell people to have, as we've been saying, we've been hearing the public health terminology, flatten the curve, and making sure that we are reducing the number of individuals who are getting COVID-19. Please, please, please stay home. But even before you get out the door, if you are sick of just, self-love or masturbation.
Which nobody should get sick of.
Because the thing about it, I tell people, this is a time for you to really understand what you like for yourself, so that once you are able to go and meet with that individual, once all this is over, you're like, look, I know what I like. I know what I want. I know where I want you to touch me. I know where I don't want you to touch me. So boom, because I've had this time to really practice, understanding my body, right? But before, and then after that, if you're sick of that, then I would say, hey, do something consensual, of course, between both you and your partner on a FaceTime or a Zoom. Maybe not Zoom. I would say keep it between kind of maybe yourself. I wouldn't recommend showing faces, but maybe it's something where you guys kind of do FaceTime loving, and it's between you and your partner. I say don't show faces because it's one of those things it could be risky. We have, sexing and these kind of, things that can get out. So just really practicing, making sure that it's safe. So if it's something where you're just showing your genitals, whatever the case may be, do that, right? So FaceTime love. But if you do have to go out, please try to reduce the kissing, because that is definitely transmittable. But once you're in that person's face and you don't know what they have, it is something that, you could potentially catch, just kind of being in that person's face, because it is highly contagious virus. But try to, reduce the kissing if you have to, of course, wear protection, even though it hasn't been shown to be in cum or you have to say sperm or vaginal fluids. It's still, COVID-19 is a very new virus in this sense that it's evolving, this particular strand. We've had other strands, but this particular strand, it's still evolving, and we're still learning so much about it. But foreplay, I mean, there's a whole bunch of foreplay. Hey, I mean, if you try to, spank somebody, I mean,
what is that?
It's a little
paddle.
Little paddle. You want to spank your partner, whatever you want to do. It's a whole bunch of fun things you can do.
Give people. I'm just saying. I still need the.
Is your question not answered yet?
Yes, we go. They come over. You said they like I said, they decided to leave the house. They got past all. They they're past the point that you already just described. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to say, what do they do once that? All right, they leave the house now. They're on the way to the house. Should you just make it like
that quarantine? Y'all stay in that house for 14 days together? Yes.
No. What I'm saying is all right. They leave the house. Should you just make it a situation where this is a straight up booty call? No, don't kind of less foreplay kind of a scenario where it's more like, hey, I'm coming over at 7. Just leave the door open so I ain't gotta touch the handle. We gon', you know what I'm saying? We gonna do it. Don't kiss me, or I don't know. Just give me some. Is there a safe way of going? Is there a safe way to
there's I got you. There's not 100% safe way, but if you are just I would really stay away from the kissing and the anus eating. Okay, just because we are the rimming, whatever. There's so many different terminologies people use, because though that is where COVID has been found, and like we said earlier, in feces and saliva. But if you have to, just for whatever reason, yes, protect yourself with condoms, because like I said, it's an evolving virus. Get it in. I wouldn't necessarily, say, because if you're there, look, and you want to foreplay, you might as well, because you better get it in all nice and nasty, bring it out, because you're already there.
You got it. If you're going to have it, you're going to have it because you're there.
Right. So if you already there, if you want to, do whatever and get down with it, hey, go ahead. But, and I know it's rough, and these are hard conversations to have, right? But, we got to, because it's life, right? And this is something that we have to deal with. But I also recognize we're not a species to be self-isolated. So.
And the other part of it is that it's not like there's an end near. So it's not like, okay, so everybody just has to self-isolate until, April 30th, and then everyone can go out. Because I think that's easier to kind of wrap your head around. Like, okay, so we have until April 30th. We're not going to go see each other. We can do whatever we need to do in our homes. But when it's up in the air, it's like, well, we don't know. Like, let's just say this goes on until the end of the year. Like, there's going to be a certain point, and I know this happens with us as Black people often. It's just kind of like you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, I'm trying to follow. I'm trying to do what's right. And then you just be like, you know what? Like, what's the point? And that's what I hear a lot of people saying, like, like, what's the point? Like, I've been, not me personally, but I hear people saying, like, I've been self-isolating like 100% since they told us to stay inside, not going nowhere, not going, not meeting up with anybody or whatever. And then looking at the rest of the world, like, okay, y'all need to stay indoors. Y'all need to stay in the house. Well, after you've been doing it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and it's like the curve is not flattening. You know what I mean? And you're still trying to do what you need to do. It just kind of gets to a point where you're like, well, you know what? I'm going to take this risk with such and such, or this person or that person, or we'll go and find a place here and quarantine for 14 days. And they say 14 days, but that's not even realistic. Right. And it's not even like truthful, because I've talked to like one of my friends who's a PA, and she was saying like she has patients who have been having a cough or having this thing for like 3 weeks, and they're still not able to get tests. So you're talking about something that could be lingering, persisting, and then you finally get a diagnosis, right? And then you're supposed to quarantine 14 days after that. But you know what I mean? So because it's so up in the air and nothing is like concrete, we're not getting accurate information or access to helping us heal or get the type of medications or services that we need. Like, you just get to a certain point where you're just kind of like, well, you know what? If I'm about to die, you know what I mean? Like, that's right.
I'm gonna give me a nut before I go. But that was the other thing I was telling people. Like, we really can't measure it, especially for those that are asymptomatic, because if it doesn't bring, especially a male, if it doesn't bring him to his knees, he's not going to the doctor. Right.
And that's the problem with y'all.
Black males.
But I mean, but I'm just saying. So let's just take an asymptomatic woman. You know what I'm saying? She's not going to. If she's asymptomatic, there's no reason for her to go to the doctor. we don't really know how many people have it or have had it. My thought about it is the majority of us have either had it and beat it or gonna get it because it's too late. I mean, they were 3 months. If you follow China, they were ahead of us by 3 months. Now everybody has to wear masks. They've been doing that. Now they're trying to track cases of new cases. We're still trying to, the stuff that we are doing now is retroactive. You know what I'm saying? Because Trump didn't take it
Right.
serious. So with that being said, we kind of are like the death toll. That stuff is, and people, y'all know how often I go to the doctor. People were lined up sick with random colds months ago.
Oh, years.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
started in November.
But yeah, like usually I can go to the ER at night and I'm good, go in, see it. But it's always been wrapped around the corner, and they just thought it was just a flu, or at least that's what they were saying. So
Yeah,
you either have it, have had it, and beat it, and or what's happening now was pretty much what was going to happen regardless. But they're tagging it now because of it's out there worldwide, and they can no longer hide it. But Tunde,
Yeah.
you spoke on something earlier, and I want to ask you a question because we have a lot of these debates, and I was talking to a young lady, and she didn't masturbate a lot,
Okay.
but she had trouble with men making her come vaginally. So can you speak on the importance of knowing how to get yourself to an orgasm that contributes to your partner getting you there?
Yeah, sure. So that's a really important question. There is a very low percentage, it's actually below 30% of women who actually can reach an orgasm, or plateau as we like to call it, with vaginal intercourse. Most women experience orgasm through clitoral or clit stimulation. So one of the things I always tell women and tell a lot of my clients and friends who come to me with this question, they're like, look, I've never had an orgasm, with penis to vaginal intercourse. One of the things I often tell those individuals is like, really get to know your body and get to know your what your G-spot is. So your G-spot is the kind of the end part of your clitoris. So really, and a lot of women are afraid that I've met are afraid to touch themselves, which internally or externally, which kind of leads to them not, being able to tell their partner what they like, right? So if you don't know what you like, how are you supposed to tell your partner what you like?
What are they afraid of when you say that?
Well, I'll speak to the African American community, right? It's really taboo to talk about sex, which is why I started HUGS, because I grew up in a really religious,
Same here.
conservative home.
I met her at church.
Right.
She was not talking like this back in the day, though.
Now you were not talking about this, right? So, and I've always been interested about the body and really been interested about, how the body functions and this, connected to social behavior. So I started HUGS because I was like, as a Black people, we're not talking about sex and we're not having these open conversations. But when you look at, yet again, the data, we are the ones who have some of the highest numbers of STIs and HIV, which comes from sex, right? So how are we, yet again, the individuals who have there's a lot of reasons. There's, lack of access to resources. I can go on and on for that, but I won't go on that boat. But going back to your question, I really think it's important that, and what's the Charles question, why was she afraid to touch herself? Because it's taboo. Like if I touch myself, if I masturbate, my hands are going to fall off. I'm going to go to hell, all these different things, right? So if you've been taught that for such a long period of time, that your body is this like yucky thing, or this, you're only supposed to, have sex X, Y, and Z, then when it comes to you actually really understanding your body, or, looking at your body and know what's wrong, what's not wrong, you're not going to do it. So then it's kind of weird, right? Because then we expect people to then get married and then have sex and be able to have enjoyable sex. But we were told not to have sex or not to understand our bodies. And that's kind of like an oxymoron, right? So
right.
To your point, Dontrell, I think it's important, or Detroit, I think it's important to really have, you know, this female understand her body so that she can then tell her partner or whoever she's having sex with, like, look, I don't like this, I like that. Because once you are empowered about what you like, you'll be more empowered to reach that orgasm.
So I have a follow-up question to what you were just saying. Actually, it's probably an add-on to what Detroit's question is. So at any point in time, is it the fault of the other partner if someone is unable to reach their own? I don't want you to answer it, Charles. I'm not asking you. Okay. Because in reference to, for example, if a man doesn't necessarily know how to pleasure the woman that he may be with, because whether she doesn't know or he's still learning or they're just still learning each other. Yeah.
Is it ever the fault of the partner that
the other person, or the individual or the other person, like vice versa? I'm asking both ways.
Both ways.
Whose fault is it? Is that what you're asking?
Whose fault is it?
Well, I'm saying, is it any, is there a fault?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a fault, because I think one thing also too, sex is not just about the actual physical act, it's the emotional element too. And I talk a lot about that on my Instagram page, because folks automatically, when they see my logo, they're like, oh God, like sex, just the physical part. And I'm like, no, sex is very comprehensive. It's not just the physical, component. You have so many things. You have the emotional component, you have the spiritual component. So there's so many things that tie into sex and sexuality. I mean, from the time that children are born until we die. And I don't think that folks understand this continuum of sex. So I wouldn't necessarily say that was a fault, but it's really how people perceptualize sex and how they really feel about sex. So I definitely wouldn't really say it's a fault of anybody, but it's really how both individuals, one, how they feel about sex, how they were taught about sex. Because you have some folks in relationships who were told sex is bad, it's nasty, don't do it. And
right.
Age, and it's like, oh, now I'm supposed to really enjoy it. And it's like, what? Like, people are always amazed. Like, especially at my son's school, my oldest son is 4, and funny story, when he was getting potty trained, the teacher was like, yeah, we were telling him, to make sure that he stands over the toilet and pull out his private part. And I had to stop her. I said, well, in our house, we call it a penis. And even with that, she was kind of shocked. She was like, yeah, but I don't want, I said, well, could you explain to me, like, what you're calling it a private part versus the actual terminology? When we kind of put these, body parts in this box, we're already confusing our kids. And then them growing up, where then they're going to school, they're hearing, penis, dick, all cock, all these different names, and they look, arm,
right,
carrot, whatever, and it's just like, I think we have a really messed up understanding what sex is. And by that actually leads to your point, Akila, like, why folks get into relationships and they're like, well, I don't really know what I want, and you don't know what you really want, and I don't really understand like what sex is. Then it's a confusing thing. So I don't really necessarily think it would be anybody's fault, but I really think it's society as a whole, like how we kind of coin sex as this bad thing. And it's like, we really have to teach our kids from a very young age about—
How young?
From the time they start even talking. My son knew what his penis was as soon as he started talking. Because even me and my husband when I was pregnant with him, my oldest son, I remember we were buying diapers. He was like, so what are we gonna tell him what his and at the point in time, he was like, I said, penis is? I said, we're going to call it a penis. A penis is a penis. A vulva is a vulva. Like, we have to say, and now, like, it's because I've taught 6th graders, and I remember going in the classroom and saying the word penis, and they were
probably like,
like, oh my God, she said a bad word. But if I said finger or if I said hand, it would be like, oh. So why are we
right,
kids? Like, teach them as young as possible. Teach them as young so that
not to mention our music is as vulgar as ever.
They're hearing
especially with city girls. Like they're not pulling any punches there. But so I did want to have an opinion on what you said, Akila, and then ask you another question, Tunda, if I may. Akila, I think it's both partners' fault. You know what I'm saying? Like, you better than anybody. Talk about it. You know what I'm saying? So if he's not getting you someone, because even my girl, like, she doesn't lie. You know what I'm saying? So if I don't do something right, she tells me. If she doesn't come, she tells me, because she feels like she's gonna be the loser in the end. Because most men are coming regardless. You know what I'm saying? So her
She
thing
need
is
to
like,
get
well,
what
why?
she needs.
Yeah, she's like,
What
I'm
she
trying to
needs.
get somewhere too. So if I don't like it, no. You know what I'm saying? Which I think is very, very important for people in sex, period. But Tuna, because we were talking about Pornhub earlier, and I think there's importance to share kink. Not maybe something that you would normally do, but you know how most people watch porn with stuff that they wouldn't normally do, but it gets them off.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's important to share that for mental reasons to help get people off?
In terms of
Du-
like the relationship?
During the act, yeah, as an extra element, you know what I'm saying? Because if I know what you like, even the stuff that you are quote unquote ashamed of or embarrassed of, then I can speak to that, even if you may never do it. But during the time, because mind you, a lot of people love talking during the sex, but a lot of times you run out of things to say or things that you have been saying. But imagine if your partner knew what you were into.
Right.
Now that grows in so many ways. And I often use it for people, but even the foreplay between me and my girl, sometimes that starts throughout the day, and it's saying certain little things
Yep. It's good.
that she know that maybe you don't speak about publicly, but she knows what to say, and it works. Because then now it's so much more heightened, and then the little things matter of what you say, because that's really on my mind. Especially
Right.
with men, the older you get, the harder sometimes it gets to have an erection or whatever.
Right.
But a lot of that stuff is mental, and the more she plays into it, the easier it is. And the more I play into it, even if it's something in the beginning that I didn't condone or that she didn't condone, now it's to her benefit, because now she can say it and it's like, oh, you see, don't say that because you know how that gets me. But a lot
Right.
of people keep our fetishes, so to speak, secret, which I think hurts us. What's your
It
opinion?
I 100% agree with you. It definitely does. Communication is always something that I tell people you have to have the open dialogue with anyone, whatever relationship that is, husband, wife, mom, son. Like you have to have those conversations. Yet again, I don't think we talk about it enough. And that's why one of my hashtags is let's talk about it, right? Because if you are not talking about it, you're keeping it all here and no one's able to read your mind. So I really respect the fact that, you know, your girl is able to be like, look, I didn't like that, or no, I didn't get there. That's 100% respect to that queen, because a lot of women aren't doing that. They're just like, well, as long as he's satisfied. Now, if that's your thing, hey, like much respect to you. But like, why not be able to also be pleased as well? Why don't you understand your body so that you can be pleasured as well too, right? But I think the fact that you all have that relationship and you have that dialogue, that actually enhances your relationship, and it enhances the kind of connection between you two. To your point about the porn, like whatever, I tell couples all the time, whatever you need to do to enhance your relationship, do it, because it's between you two, right? Or whatever you decide, that's your relationship. As long as you all are communicating and it's consensual, by all means, go ahead. Because I have folks who are like, oh, well, you know, I want to use a whip on my partner. I want to, you know, I want to watch this. I want to play dress up. Why not? Whatever you need to do. And I mean, because I talk to couples who have been married for, you know, 40 plus years, and they want to enhance their relationship. What does that look like? I'm like, well, first of all, what does pleasure look like to you? You know, and you have to really be able to speak that. And that's for both individuals, not just one, because it has to be a individual thing. Because I don't, like I tell people, I don't want to tell you something and then your partner is not comfortable with it, and then it's kind of throwing everything off, and then they're pissed, and it just goes down the drain. So the whole thing about the porn, and whatever you need to do as a couple, do it, because it makes sense. But just talk about it.
I have a question for you. So I know you mentioned like you might have one individual client, or you may have a couple that are your clients. What type of services do you offer for individuals and or couples? And if someone were to reach out to you, what is it that they are reaching out to you for, and what is it that you can offer them for them?
Sure. So I tell people, first off, I'm not a therapist by any means. I'm a public health practitioner, so I'm a sex coach. I'm there to walk with you through what your needs are. So I'll start with the singles. I always ask folks kind of, what do you want to achieve in your life? I can definitely tell you some of the top concerns is just folks being able to understand their bodies. And a lot of my clients right now are women, single women, for the single population. So they just really want to understand their body. They really want to understand how to be comfortable in their skin so that when they do get in a relationship, they're able to say, I like this, I feel comfortable being able to take off this piece of clothing. I'm comfortable being able to do X, Y, and Z and kind of take control of kind of, you know, the sexual act or the sexual connection. So I kind of walk my clients through that. So that's one service for singles. On the flip side, for the couples, I have clients who are married. I have clients who have just gotten into a relationship. So I say, you know, like 6 months, and they're like, okay, well, now we want to, you know, take it up a notch. We want to, you know, get some toys. I do offer toys on my website. They actually just launched this spring. So last week. So they say, oh, you know, I want to do this. Can I, you know, what do you recommend? And I never, you know, tell folks, hey, this is what you should get. I recommend it based on what they tell me. So really coaching people through their sexual needs and their sexual desires. But then I also, you know, talk outside of, you know, the kind of the sexual pleasure, sexual desire. I also talk to parents how to talk to their kids about sex. I talk to, you know, seniors who really need to, you know, kind of, especially in the senior homes, because we have high STD rates in some senior homes, but making sure that not so many women are having sex with that one gentleman. So
is that what's happening in the senior homes?
That is what's happening. I actually,
wow.
I actually talked to one of my colleagues. She is a nurse, and she was like, yeah, there's a hot guy here, and all the, you know, beautiful women here. They
be bringing them to their room. That just intrigued me. Like, oh, the old man is like, come on to my room.
The desire is
I think Viagra came back. So
look, so you would be surprised, but you know, it's because it's a continuum. There's no age that sex doesn't not touch. So I when you go to my website, you will see the scope is very wide, and I really pride myself on talking to any community and really learning about any community, any target population, whether it be young or old, whether it be, you know, Black or Latina, whatever the case may be. I really pride myself if it's a, you know, military family who are trying to understand how to keep it hot overseas. Like, you know, this is something that I really pride myself on, making sure that sex is really just kind of a common language. And that's kind of my vision, that sex it's going to be a common language among all, so that when we should be able, just how we're having a dialogue, I should be able to go into any community like and I recognize it's not something that is going to happen overnight, because like even working with faith-based organizations, there's a component on my website about that, where I've gone into churches, I've gone into some, you know, mosques where we actually it's a slow process, right? Because yet again, that taboo component, but as long as we are being able to talk about the importance of body and the importance of, you know, healthy relationships, that's all sex. That's all sex education. So it's a wide range. I tell folks, just check it out. Hit me up if you have any questions, and we can go from there.
No, I had a question. So I just wanted to know, like, what is so why, it's like one of those things, I wonder why is like sex so important, like in general? Because to me, technically, you know, we kind of really are like really kind of procreating, so that way we have pleasure. Sex is a pleasurable experience, but most animals in the world, they kind of just are doing it to like reproduce, and then we kind of evolved into, you know, sex, and it's like this, I guess, like the size of our penis is more like evolved in a sense where it was more like for a pleasurable experience more so, and then I think it's like, you know, whatever. So anyways, I'm like, it's always so important, but I'm like, why is it like the most important thing in the world? Damn near.
Because everyone's doing it. No, look, seriously, no. But no, seriously, either folks are doing it or they're talking about it, right? And
I'm saying why though?
Why is it? I think it's the most important thing because that taboo, because that stigma, right? Like globally, you have communities who are, it's, yes, that whole procreation component, but I'll bring one like the clitoris. The clitoris is an organ that is strictly for pleasure. That's it. That's it. So but it's
What she said.
for pleasure, but it's like we don't talk about the clitoris. We don't really. I mean, there are, of course, as there are some women who do, but when you think about it, it's like you think about in some communities where it's just like we're just gonna have sex to have a baby. But there's more than that, because
Yeah.
it's the most important thing, because it's pleasurable. And I think once folks understand that it is pleasurable and it is, a desire component attached to it, then I think we would be in a better place. But I think we have to, and I'll just speak just for us here in America, because I don't want to get too many into, different countries and cultures, because that can take that's a whole nother show, a whole nother few hours. But, I think we are such a highly sexualized country. I mean, like Detroit said, it's in the music, it's in the commercials, it's on
everywhere.
however,
It's in Disney.
it's in
But,
Disney.
but it's also primal though too. Some of those instincts come, like they're itches that you have to scratch.
This is true. But folks are not talking about it. They're not having open communication about it. So therefore they're sweeping it under the rug. We shouldn't.
And why do you feel like, and maybe it's, you've learned through public health education and or history or just research, but why is it that it became taboo? Because I'm sure there was a time when we were able to just be free and be in our
70s.
natural habitat and all of that. But then there were things that happened, and I don't know if it was way back, you know what I mean, before coming to America and or the travel to America or the breakdown that happened once we got here, or, the use of, the Black woman's body, during that time. But I just wonder, like, when did it become taboo to a point where it was something that, was a stigma for people to talk about? I know on the religious aspect,
Yep.
but is that the thing that really kind of took over for everyone in how it is talked about and or received?
Well, that and culture, right? Because you have, I mean, as I'll just speak for our Black community, you have Black folks from everywhere, right? So culturally, there are some cultures where men are supposed to be the one who get the pleasure, and that's it. Right. So it's not up for discussion. As long as the man, I don't forget who said it on the call here, but as long as, it was supposed to be like, if the man gets it, then hey. But no, we're so removed from that now, where it's like both parties, regardless of what relationship you're in, should be able to actually experience that pleasure. But it really ties to your point around religion and culture and both of those things together, right? How sex has been perceived, how sex has been taught, how we have been taught about our bodies. So it's just really, because you don't talk about your private parts, you don't talk about sex. You're supposed to just, once you get married, or
you're just supposed to poof.
It's supposed to be, exactly. But then so it's a question, like, what if I don't want to get married? Then what?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's so many different components.
Or what if you get married and you're not sexually satisfied? Then what?
Right? So there's so many different components that play into it. But the biggest things, just reading and just understanding and just kind of really for our Black community is really culture and religion and how sex has been. And I will say, as a Christian woman, I respect there are some religious leaders who are like, look, I get it. We need to have this conversation, because there are marriages, let's be real, that are struggling. Because I know a few, and it's like, look, I have clients who are like, I really want to enhance my sex.
And it's probably more than a few.
And look,
I mean, truth be told,
so it's just like, we can't act like it's not a problem and not have these conversations. And it's like, yeah, we're supposed to be like, oh, married and that's it. And yes, you have the children, but you're really not happy. And then, hey, we didn't even talk about divorce rates, and we didn't.
That's on the rise.
And man, so it's like, it's on the rise right now.
Yeah, so one of my questions I had is, all right, so right now, taking it back to this quarantine time frame, or just in general in life, but like people are that are properly quarantining, they're at home, especially single folks, they're masturbating, or even married folks or couple people. So people are masturbating. So what's a healthy number ratio for masturbation, like on a weekly basis? And then also, what's the ratio for, especially, I'm talking about healthy ratios, but also sex, like actual physical sex, you know what I'm saying, on a per week basis, that would say like, okay, this is a healthy range, and then what is an unhealthy range?
Well, I would say there is no actual number as long as it doesn't mess with your day-to-day life where you can't, for example, if you just feel like, oh God, I have this Zoom call in 10 minutes, but shoot, I need to, and it's now prohibiting you to actually do your data, then that's when you want to start thinking about, okay, do I have,
a problem?
have a problem? But if it's not enabling you to, do your day-to-day function, you're
And your
fine.
15 times a day is good, Charles.
Like, as long as it's not, enabling you to do that, there's no number. And then the same with your, for
And
those.
your partner is consenting to that, because it might be unhealthy if one partner is trying to stress that issue and the other partner is not.
Well, I mean, they need to touch themselves too. Speaking of which, Tunde.
But she was gonna say that's the sex range, the sex, like, so you
Oh, go ahead.
so you
The
saying,
sex, there's not, as long as it depends, it's up to you and your partner. Like, if y'all are like, look, I wouldn't necessarily
Rules.
put a certain number. I wouldn't put a number or a cap on it, as long as it's not, it's consensual, of course, between you, because it's like, you don't want to, like, your partner don't.
yeah, they're not a dildo, or
Yeah, like,
Well, that's happening too, because we talked about domestic, abuse and stuff like that, and they're,
it is on the rise. Domestic violence is definitely, unfortunately, one of the things that I'm sure, I don't know the actual statistics, but I know that it is on the rise right now, as well as child abuse, which is also a very sad thing.
Do you help people through sexual trauma, like if they've dealt with sexual abuse, like in childhood or through domestic partnership or things of that nature?
I coach them to get to a better place, but I also tell them to seek therapy on top of it as well too. So I help them navigate what that looks like to look for a sex therapist or a psychologist, because that is a deeper embedded psychological concern. But I help them get to a place where they're able to kind of move past that trauma. But I also highly recommend folks to get therapy if needed. And that's, mental health and sexual health, those are our two kind of taboo things in the Black community.
Right.
So I'm always, very excited to talk to my mental health friends and be like, look, like, we need to combine forces, because these are the two things that folks aren't really touching on. I mean, hopefully this pandemic really helps folks move away from the things that are stigmatized and taboo a little bit more. I know it's going to take time, but we gotta get past it.
do you think people will be like, as far as like anybody that's like a germaphobe, or any person that's, well, you think people will be more sexually reserved after this, or hesitant, or because I mean, I know just even meeting people, like strangers. Okay, we're gonna have to wrap it up. Keela Trinae, she gotta go check on the baby. Yeah. So yeah. So will people have like reservations to? I mean, as far as like meeting somebody new, because you hugging people, you got that first kiss, you got all these different things, you're holding hands, you're doing whatever you're trying to lead up to. So new relationships are going to be kind of different, right?
Oh, for sure. I definitely think, we're not going to come out of this where it's going to be, all of a sudden we go back to being a normal society right away. Like, I think the lead, Dr. Fauci, who's been on TV sometime, talked about it's not going to be a light switch, right? We're not going to, they give us a date, okay, we can go back to our jobs, we can go back to this. It's going to take folks are going to be scared for a long time. I don't know what number that is, but folks are going to be scared, because folks are going to not know, you know, do you have this virus? Do you have some other virus? So for, you know, folks who we call our germaphobes, or folks who are just afraid of anything, period, they're going to be, you know, freaked out even more to just be around anyone intimately. So, you know, it's just going to take some time, as it would with anything else. But give yourself time. Folks have to give themselves time. Give yourself time to really, you know, understand, you know, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and having the conversation. I can't say that enough. I really preach a lot. One of the things I tell all clients, friends, whoever I talk to, communication is key. If you don't talk about it, and, you know, I sometimes play games with clients that they can then go play, you know, with their partner, with their spouse, or whatever the key, or even with themselves. I do kind of like self-engagement activities, so that folks really start to understand it's okay to look in the mirror and tell myself, I love you. Start there. And a lot of times folks joke. And I mean, they laugh when I say that, but I'm like, no, I'm serious. You think it's easy? And then they come back, they're like, yo, that really was a little bit hard for me to look in the mirror and say, I love myself. Like, look in the mirror and be like, I love you. And then, you know, really like feel that. Like, how does that feel? So starting there. So I say all that to say conversation and communication is important.
Oh, and I don't know, we got Detroit, but I'm gonna do everybody's last. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up, and another great show, another great episode. We gotta have you back, you know, get some updates, because things gonna continue to change. So Detroit, you got your poem ready? Look, he ain't got no poem ready. Nah, he sometimes be writing a poem.
I didn't write one.
You still do that?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, every now and again, but I didn't.
So who we gonna go to first? Akila, you got some last words for us before we dip?
Well, just thank you, Tunde, for coming on and leading us in the conversation about sexuality. That was very informative. I think it's just important. Just everything you said, I echo that for sure. Communication. And just kind of taking the time just to spend the time to get to know whoever you're with. It really does make a difference versus just going into a situation. I mean, it also depends on what you want out of it. You know what I mean? Like, if you just want a sex situation, then that's just going to be what it's going to be. But if you're wanting more with a person, I really do think that it's important to get to know each other on, like you said, physical, mental, spiritual level. Just to enhance everything long term, you know. But at the same time, stay safe, stay in place, and you know, do it for the race.
I appreciate that.
Detroit. Oh, you gonna go last, or?
Yeah, I go last.
Okay, so then I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna just say, hey, you know, it's been real. I always appreciate the pull up, and you know, this is a good time to connect with people, and you know, I really love this format. Actually, I'm glad we got Akila back on the show, and she's still trying to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. But
we missed you, girl.
Yeah, really.
Oh, I miss y'all.
Since this is how we gotta operate in the planet Earth right now. This this is the perfect time to come back. So,
this works for now, but what happens when we come back and we can see each other?
I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's time. I don't feel like I want to be in the studio for a cool minute. And I think that people are going to be so adjusted to just seeing content like this that whole high level of production is not going to be it's going to be, people going to want that. But I watched the freaking Tonight Show. And it was what Jimmy Fallon was tonight, right? In the Tonight Show. Jimmy Fallon did the Tonight Show, and it was from his iPhone. His wife was his cameraman. It was from his iPhone, and they were holding. It's like, and he did it on his laptop. I mean, that's network television. You know?
Yeah, Trevor Noah is doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's network television. That's like
that's ESPN. Shit, that's how it's been happening.
So I'm saying that's like, so you telling me, look, I got the same thing they got. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, hey, I don't know. It's like I feel I don't I feel just on par with everybody else that's doing content out of the comfort of their home. I seen the Diddy thing, which is tight. Shout out to Mark Baldry, and I think it's Greg, probably the same crew that's been there. But they somebody I think probably had to go into the actual Revolt studio.
And kind of like put the screens up when
Yeah,
the
to make
different
the
people were there.
screen,
Yeah.
all that stuff, just to make it kind of have that backsplash and all that. But all that to say, that's probably like one, maybe two people max, and then everybody else is just remote. You know what I'm saying? 100% remote. So that's how stuff is gonna be. People are not gonna. So yes, my mind in long story short, long story long. Uh, it was a long time where my mind was our mind was like, hey, a show needs to be people in the studio having guests. That way you could be interacting, all that stuff. But I mean, 6 months, 7 months of this, people
Right.
are not going to go like production wise, you're not flying. You're spending you people are spending so much money booking flights for talent, hotels, missed flights, all this stuff, car services. And then you telling me you could just have the same guest on for an hour show, whatever, and and do an interview from Zoom, and you're gonna go back to how it was? Nah, people are gonna stick with this. This is how it's gonna be. I mean, I would say at least for a good amount of time. And I mean, unless you really need that person there, you're not spending that money and spend that time to have somebody come into a studio. That's how I see it. I mean, we'll see how it goes, but that's my mind frame. But yeah, appreciate you, Tunde, and this is perfect for me because now I get to have guests from everywhere too. Around the world, around the country. Next, I might highlight my folks in Romania, just
Nice.
just to see what's what. But yeah, great convo. Definitely, we're gonna, like I said, bring you back on because you got so many different. Uh, this is a big topic. It's a lot to talk about, and yeah. And last thing I'll say is if you living with somebody and they have some issues with, and you're dealing with domestic violence, some domestic sexual abuse, any type of abuse, get help. There's 1-800 numbers. There's Googles that I don't know where you live or what the specific places are. There's shelters. It's not going to be the best places and all that at this point in time because I don't know everywhere is some it might be a little bit hard. It's a hard time, but I would just say I would encourage people to still try to get the help that they need the best way they can. And it's a sacrifice to make, but your life is in your mental health and well-being is very important. So Detroit, what you got? Tune, sorry, Tune, we gotta give you your closing remarks, where people can find you, what you got going on next and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Thank y'all so much. It's really good to be on and just talk with you all. I appreciate you reaching out, Charles. It's really good to see you and to chat with you and to catch up and to also meet you, Akila, and Detroit. And I look forward to being on the show again. Please let me know. I'm
Pull
open.
up.
Yeah, so anytime. But folks, I tell folks to check me out on IG. It's helping us grow sexually. So just exactly helping us grow sexually. So if you just look me up. And then also my website is helpingusgrowsexually.com. Check me out. I got some good information up there. If you want to reach out, hit me up and just let's connect. So that's how you can reach me. And I'm excited to connect with folks. Or you can even DM me too on my IG.
All right. Detroit, what you got?
I'm gonna try to do this off the dome because I didn't get a chance to write it.
I knew you would.
Whatever. But for a lot of us, sex doesn't have to be extravagant or it can be simplistic. To explore sex sexually is not, it actually makes you sane, not sexually sadistic. Sex is much like a good drink. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. You can have it now or at noonday. I've enjoyed this sexual conversation today with you, Miss Tunde. Everything that we do, for me, it helps me in love. But most sex start with a few hugs. And so with communication, Sex brings out the best in me. I would love to be coached by you and help us out grow sexually.
Yes. That was at the top of
Snap, 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 snap.
the Love it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
There it is. And see y'all next week. Next week we got I don't know what we got going.
How would you say
You stay tuned. All right.
Tell them where they can find the show.
Yeah, this is gonna be on the Good News Network, the whole shebang.
The goodnewsradio.com.
Yeah, the Good
Great
News
radio station.com.
This is
why you're his co-host.
it's the relationship game. The relationship game, and this has been another episode.
Love sessions.
The whole name.
Love sessions.
That's the whole name.
Love amplified.
Yeah, there was
Right.
Love Amplified.
It's the relationship game love session amplified.
Yeah, get out of
Hey
here.
man. Oh, I gotta get these in this. I gotta get this in. Achilles earrings are giving me life.
Oh, thank
What are
you.
those? The Proud Family?
It's Tupac.
Huh?
Proud Family. It's Tupac.
Oh, Tupac. No, it looked like the Proud Family from where I was at.
Those are nice.
I like yours too, Tunde. How big are they?
Not too big.
I couldn't even see the back of. Is that green?
It's gold and black.
Gold and black.
I can go. All right, so yeah, peace out, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeet.
It's been real.
Whoop.